Welcome to Web Handling. My name is Dave Roysum. I am super excited to begin a fun new series that I call War Stories. Here we will learn, hopefully, from the mistakes of others and thus maybe avoid some industrial disasters ourselves. In this first clip, we will define what a war story is and how it can be so very, very useful. We will also share why war stories might be underappreciated in your organization. I know your time is precious, so let's get started. Merriam-Webster defines a war story as a story of memorable personal experience, typically involving an element of danger, hardship, or adventure. Of course, on this All Web Handling channel of YouTube, our stories will be for web handling machines and processes. The potential dangers will be our own careers. The hardships will include long hours, cost overruns, and late or no delivery at all. There will be no adventures here, just troubles that we want to avoid. There are many reasons that war stories might be useful. Most are so that we can be more than smart, but rather, on occasion, be wise. Wise enough to learn from others' mistakes rather than have to repeat them ourselves. There may be an equal number of reasons not to share war stories. Recalling upsetting events is seldom politically acceptable anymore. The main character of Pollyanna from the 1913 novel by Eleanor Porter may be a helpful starting point. At its best, being Pollyannish can imply an idealistic nuance, perhaps even to the point of being visionary. For that reason, Pollyannas will often be tolerated in industry, and sometimes even encouraged. At its worst, however, being Pollyannish means the person is blindly or foolishly optimistic, traits that are not altogether desirable. In contrast, nobody likes Debbie Downers, and few people enjoy war stories unless you enjoy Schadenfreude as described next. Whether being a Pollyanna is a good thing or a bad thing is debatable, and it is very situation specific. Schadenfreude is when a person takes secret pleasure in somebody else's troubles. This motivation is not part of the discussion of this show because it does not inform and it does not help. My first encounter with war stories was as a winder design engineer at Beloit Corporation. War stories were quite commonly passed around among the engineers and service techs at that time. These stories were always quite interesting because big mistakes were, well, big, starting at $100,000. At least two important lessons can be learned from war stories. First, you should probably try and avoid those circumstances, otherwise you might suffer from similar troubles. Second is that you will almost certainly make mistakes at that level sooner or later. If not, you might not be trying hard enough, or your position is somewhat mundane and recipe-based with little room for creativity. The second utility may be surprising to some of you, and that is that most of you will probably survive a mistake or two at that level during your career. Of course, we all want to avoid avoidable troubles. That is the theme of this series. One way to do that is to do nothing original or risky and just do what you're told to do. That is not the theme of this series because I think some of you can do better. Doing so, however, puts you at risk. If you aren't either good or lucky on some occasion, buck up, because you will probably be fine well after the dust settles. If not, buck up anyway. I've been to about 1,000 plants and factories. From these visits, I will have many that will make most memorable and meaningful stories. In the next series of clips, we will learn from operators, engineers, and managers alike. And that learning, by example, will be learning the hard way. The takeaways from these stories will be much wider than the specifics of the problem at hand. Of course, names and dates and places will be omitted to protect the guilty. Thank you so very much for joining me in this introductory War Stories mini-series. Stay tuned for next week's show, where the learner will be me. If you have a topic you would like to hear about, let me know in the comment section below. If you found any of these stories to be interesting or useful, please like and share and subscribe. See you next time.